So, at one point, I was even so sure that I had found the one. I had brought my checkbook to a showing, and I said, "I'm buying this house today. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm done. This is the house for me." And I show up, and of course, it's completely different than what you see online.
Yeah.
And so that got me thinking. The arrogant tech guy in my head that lives there rent free, he kept saying, "Look, why is this so difficult? Like, maybe just build a house. Like, get exactly what you want." And so
How
that
hard
was
could it be?
the impetus. How hard could it be? That
Yeah.
phrase rang through my head so many. How hard could it be?
So I was on your website actually, and I was reading the About Us page, and I saw that it looks like you started this concept to solve a problem that was your own problem at the time, which was a problem that a lot of people have, especially in today's market, which is there's not a lot of good product on the market in terms of single family homes, and people are buying things that are either way overpriced or they're not very excited about buying, or they have to put a ton of money and time and energy and sweat equity into renovating. So you essentially you built your own home. Is that correct?
I did. I'm a tech guy by trade. I'm not a builder, but I've
Right.
always been interested in construction. I've always been interested in what happens when things get created. I mean, our infrastructure here in the U.S. it's really interesting, and it has a really interesting history. And so I've always had a lot of curiosity. But when I went to go look for my first house myself, I found that maybe I was a little naive. I thought
Yeah.
that this was like going to a car dealership and getting a car. They have a zillion on the lot. You get a home, you're going to find something you like. It's great. But again, I was naive. It wasn't like that at all. So I was looking around a lot, and ultimately, I kept getting frustrated. Right, it was where I was looking was like an hour away from where I lived, so I would keep going back and forth, and every time I was thinking, okay, this existing home is going to be great. I'd show up, and then I was disappointed for some reason.
What state?
And in New York,
In New York. Yeah.
State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was very surprising to me. So, at one point I was even so sure that I had found the one. I had brought my checkbook to a showing, and I said, "I'm buying this house today. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm done. This is the house for me." And I show up, and of course it's completely different than what you see online.
Yeah.
And so that got me thinking. The arrogant tech guy in my head that lives there rent free, he kept saying, "Look, why is this so difficult? Like, maybe just build a house. Like, get exactly what you want." And so
How
that
hard
was
could it be?
the impetus. How hard could it be? That
Yeah.
phrase rang through my head so many. How hard could it be?
Yep.
Right. So I started the process, and like every sane person, instead of building a house, I rented a factory space, and I said, "How do you do this thing?" Right. And I built a couple houses in a factory, and then one that I built on a plot of land that I bought. And of course, I bought land, the smartest way possible, which was I randomly drove someplace, had a great lunch, and said, "I should buy some property here."
Yeah.
Right.
Great idea.
And that's how I got some, and that's how I built my first homes. But I learned so much from it. Right. I know I was paying for my education,
Yeah.
and that was the exciting part, because I needed to know, how does this work? Why is this complicated? How big is this problem? And I have the problem. It's frustrating to me, but it's frustrating to other people too,
Yeah. What did you learn building your first home? What do you think your major takeaways were?
What didn't I learn? I mean,
Yeah,
I did
right.
everything from putting studs in myself to building staircases. Like I did the stringers, the calculations. I worked with the architect. I have a philosophy when I'm learning something. Which sounds good to the providers at the beginning, but not great in the middle. I say, look, whatever you want, I'll pay you, and I'll pay you 10% more. But I get to ask unlimited questions. So I learned everything. That sounds great to everybody in the beginning. 10% more than what I'm asking. It's perfect. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions because I like to learn things. I'm a
Right.
very inquisitive person. So
Right.
I did that with our architect, with our engineers, civil engineers. I asked every single thing. I wrote down everything, and I learned, I hope, all the ingredients of building a home, right? From how load calcs are done in general, to how HVAC is routed, to literally how, I install soffits and everything myself, where the best optimization for chase walls are. I mean, I'm not a builder, by trade. So I had to learn every little thing, like someone who would have 30 years of experience on each and every trade. And that's what I tried to do in a short 2-year time period. So I'd like to think I learned quite a lot. I obviously have a lot more still to learn, but it was fun.
Right. I think when you're not from the construction space, right? Like I was in the entertainment business in radio, and you come into the construction space, there's a naivety that architects figure everything out, right? Like everything's figured out. And then the builder builds it and they also know everything there is to know. And there's just a bunch of experts everywhere. And so when you first get into it and you start asking questions, what is revealed pretty quickly is that below the surface, there's a lot of stuff that's just not really thought about, right? So you ask an innocent question like, well, oh, okay, so like how does the house get cooled? Well, there's a unit and then there's ductwork that carries the air and then disperses the air. Oh, okay, great. Well, where does the ductwork go? Well, you should talk to your builder about that. Well, I am the builder. Like, it's not part of the design. No, the builders typically, make that decision sometimes. And then you're like, okay, cool. I'll put the ductwork over here. And then, but like, then there's ductwork. I see the ductwork. Well, how is it enclosed? Well, I don't know. So you're like, oh my God, I picked one thing and I started to ask a question about it. And then it just continues to snowball
All
and
unravels.
snowball. And that's a huge part of the process of construction even today, which is kind of crazy, right?
I agree. What I found is most interesting thing, though, is when you say builder, that really is a catch-all word for so many things. Because if you think of builder, you think that's somebody who builds a house. But you obviously realize what goes into building a house. You have to know permitting. You have to know a bit of engineering. You have to know a bit of architecture. You have to know finance, right? You have
Yep.
to know procurement, logistics. You have to know how to deal with people. You know have to know how not to deal with people,
Right.
right?
Right.
You've
For
got to
sure.
you've got to be able to know risk, compliance, right? You've got to be able to know insurance.
Yeah.
All of these things, one person, two people, how could somebody have that level of expertise so quickly on every job when every job is unique? That, I think, it's illogical. We would have teams of people in tech or in business to deal with this stuff because the
Right.
scope and the magnitude of what you have to do is
Right.
crazy. So in your HVAC example, yeah, I mean, it's not only that you have to know how the drywaller is going to encase the ductwork, which is a completely different trade than how the ductwork is going to be put in, but you
Right.
also have to know, like, how does this affect the rest of the house, the load balance, how is the tributary, what's the sizing, is it right, is it wrong, how is it going to affect the other side of the house, right? And so, when you look at that, you're asking some one or two people to do a tremendous amount of math, a tremendous amount of engineering, a tremendous amount of calculation, and then on top of it, to be able to articulate it and explain it at a moment's notice to three different people who speak basically three different languages, right?
Yeah.
So I think
100%.
it's a quite a job to be
Yeah,
building
it
a
is quite a
home,
job. And
but it's
and by the
also
way,
massively important.
the building part of that very long list that we just went through is literally at the bottom of it at this point.
Yeah, that's a
You
fair
know,
point.
yeah, it's at the bottom of the list. Everything else that you mentioned is more of what we're focusing on as builders than actually just building. Like we good builders figured out how to build, and they're typically relying on really good subcontractors who are the people who are doing most of the actual build. So there's a lot to it, and also don't forget that one other small detail, which is risk mitigation, which is pretty much all that anybody thinks about and operates around these days. So,
Yeah, that's
uh,
fair.
yeah, quite involved. So you build a house, and then were you thinking about it like when you started this project, or at the end did you say to yourself like, I think I want to take my tech background and apply it to this industry and start to bring something to the market that can solve the problem that I had?
Well, initially I was thinking if I could figure out how to do this 20% more efficiently, I could buy into part of a regional builder and help them from a business standpoint, a tech
Got it.
standpoint. I
Okay.
didn't think of this as like a standalone company, Welcome, which is my business now. I thought of it as a means to moving the industry forward,
Sure.
allowing better yield at lower price points. I really was thinking about the novelty of what I could bring to the table being on the construction side. And what I learned is, construction is an imperfect, perfect science. So it's not that I can bring as much value on site as one might think, but it's what happens before. It's about aligning expectations. It's about evaluating parcels. Like that is where technology has a serious place right now. And so, my key learning after doing all of that was I know how to build a house, so that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yep.
But what I learned is where tech makes a difference. And there've been a lot of tech companies who came in and said like, I have the answer. I have never built a house, but I have the answer, right? We're going to do this part of construction differently. And sometimes those ideas are great, but the pragmatism of implementing them across multiple different regions with variance in every single detail from, insulation all the way up to heights and restrictions and zoning, that's implausible. So I said, look, we know the industry needs to change, and we know that change is going to take 20, 30 years minimum, because there's so much regional variance, it's so relationship dependent, and all for good reason. So where can we make the change that everybody wants? Everyone from builders to customers, like, where does everybody want to see change? And for me, that was the key learning, and that's where Welcome really focuses on, is we can make a change of aligning expectations, right? Like, we could put the house online so that it's clickable and customizable, so that people have clear expectations of what they're building and what they're buying. And while that might sound simple, the ability to do that changes everything, because you now have two parties who, they start as friends, they get a little confrontational as things go on because they both speak different languages, and then hopefully at the end of the day they become friends again. Now they're friends the entire time through, because the expectations, the details, the CDs, those are things that Welcome can help generate. That, in addition to doing some dynamic analysis of land, so that before a builder steps on site, they know, hey, this is not going to be conforming, or this is how, what the options might be for laying the house out. So we applied the tech in advance in a place that we thought makes builders' lives much easier, and also makes customers more excited about building. Because, look, man, we got, this stat, we got what, 5.5 to 7.5 million unit disparity in the country. We need to be building more homes. We're not building more homes. We go back and forth from price point. The average and median price of homes has increased dramatically. I think we're at over $467,000 median price per home, or maybe that's average price per home in the U.S. Like, those numbers are increasing. And with interest rates, it's the affordability index of homes, it's high. So how do we build more? Well, first we got to get people interested in building more. And then we got to align their expectations and let them know what they're going to get. And then we got to tell builders, hey, like, this isn't going to change 50 different times. They want this. And here's the printout of what this is supposed to look like, from soup to nuts, components, etc. And so if we as Welcome could do that, that was my key learning. We're not going to be able to help the actual build on site as dramatically as a smart builder that's equipped with all of the information they need. But getting somebody equipped with all the information they need, and then abstracting away the stuff like the finances, which are complicated and unneeded for a builder to do, that type of thing makes a big difference. So it makes it cheaper, it makes it faster, it makes it easier, and it makes customers more excited because they can see it and they know what they're getting. And so I might be wrong, and I'd love your opinion, but that's where I said I think we can add a lot of value here. Having built stuff, having been on the other side, like, this is what I would have liked.
Yeah, look, I think from my perspective, what I see with Welcome Homes is it's essentially a one-stop shop, right? So you get to capture the entire process, and the end user, their experience is significantly simplified. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know who you have to go to get a design, and then is it just an architect, or do you need an architect and a civil engineer? And then do those two people need to communicate? And by the way, like, that's kind of your responsibility as the homeowner. And then you're like, oh, I have a responsibility? Why can't I just hire a bunch of people to do their job? Because the industry's not set up like that, and there's a lot of components to it and a lot of different factors, right? So what I think you nailed it on. I think I'm happy that you built a house on your own, because I don't think that tech solutions apply to the guys in the field actually putting the pieces together in a really strong way, right? And so it's kind of like, well, where's the threshold? Well, there's a ton of technology for subcontracting companies, right? The general contractors and the construction managers are leveraging technology in a pretty strong way, but you're just kind of like fighting against the grain there, and there's a lot of people in the market. So for you to take your background and your expertise and your tech ability and apply it to everything around that, I think was a really strong play. So from my point of view, and let me just tell you what I see with Welcome Homes, and if you can tell me if this is a fair assessment, right? I want to build a house, and I don't know what I'm talking about or what I'm doing. I'm just a person who wants to build a house. And I probably want to build a house because I can't really find a house that I would buy. And so already, like, I'm building a house out of necessity. what Welcome Homes does is Welcome Homes is a one-stop shop to help you source land, source a design, source a build partner, and essentially have a one-stop shop to getting you an end product that is something you're really excited about building and requires not all that much from your end. Is that a fair assessment?
Matt, that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, to say exactly what you said again, slightly differently for no reason,
Please do.
you go
Yeah.
online, you choose a plot of land. We have a lot of tools online to help customers understand their choices in land. They can see which models of ours fit on the land. They enter our studio. Our studio is sort of our bread and butter, where we take like a 3D walkthrough. Many people have seen like a Matterport of an existing home. We do that with a not built home yet, and we apply themes. That a customer can choose granular detail. They could choose every different aspect of their home. And I think the big difference here is instead of it just being a rendering of what looks pretty, the homes are already value engineered, and the products are the real SKUs of products that we've inventoried. So like the builder partners that we work with really do get a full build of material list. Once you customize, you could go through financing with us, and you could buy, and then we solicit our building partners to do the final construction. We also help with customer experience. So you have a place to call, which is us, for the customer, which makes it easier for the builder and for the customer.
Yep.
And then we also have in-house expertise for our builder partners and our customers to understand things. Like we have in-house civil engineering, we have in-house architecture, so that way we could bridge the communication gap as well. And I'd say, like, my big analogy here is like home building is hard. There's no way. I mean, it's just there's so many pieces.
Yeah.
I always thought about it like a circuit board, because apparently I'm very nerdy. But like I always think about like a circuit board is like way more complicated than a house. It's got a lot more components and they're this big. But somehow circuit boards are now just designed by computers, which is to say they're all algorithmically designed. Like the
Right.
placement, everything is determined based on what the optimal setting is. We're not going to get there on homes anytime soon, but that is what Welcome is doing with our studio. We are optimizing the placement of things such that the home is the easiest and the cheapest to build for the builder, the most aesthetically pleasing for the customer. They get the most choice and option, and then realistically they could click through without ever having to worry about how the circuit board's made. And that's really what we're trying to attempt to do. Your
It.
version sounded better. I just know that you need to fill some time on this show, so I wanted to give you a more elaborate.
No, it was a great answer. I wanted to kind of give you my perspective of it so you can see what somebody on the outside sees and understands. And you had hit some points that I didn't know about, so that's why I'm glad we bounced back and forth on that. That's great.
Thank you. Your synthesis of what we're doing is flattering. I'm glad that the marketing team is really getting the point across. So
There you
thanks for
Yeah.
making their day.
Yeah, of course. Yep. So I just want to kind of hit each pillar real quick if we can. So land sourcing, what does that look like on your end? Who are you partnering with or collaborating with in order to be able to bring that offer to the market?
Matt, we really like data. So that's the thing that I thought was really underutilized. And there's no reason that you would assemble all the data that we've assembled unless you're doing exactly what we're doing, which is to say we have data for all parcel boundaries across the U.S. We have data for all the demographic and zoning information across the U.S. We have title and background information on all parcels across the
And
U.S.
how you're taking that data yourself? You guys have figured out a way to get that data? That's all internal.
It's all we have it all from all different from hundreds of different data sources.
Okay,
not
that's
even more
it.
than that. And so we aggregate all of it and make it boil it down to an individual parcel level, which is super hard to do, especially when you're reconciling like MLS data and stuff, because someone might put an address in with a slightly long address, the longitude and latitude don't match up. So we have to reconcile all these things to get real parcel info. And so all of that data from water table, depth to bedrock, everything goes into our system so we can dynamically generate a bunch of different site plan versions. And that allows us to say, hey, this home could fit on this property and it's practical. Or, hey, the driveway is going to be way too long. This is not a practical home to build here, right? And so that's effectively what our analysis does, and it does it all using the fanciest buzzword in the world right now, AI, to be able to do that comparison lot over lot and do the analysis sort of in real time.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, let's go to design. So 2 things. First, I think you guys are like so on point with your designs. It's not even funny. You really hit the nail on the head. Like this is it. When I look at your designs and the range that you have, it's really, really spot on what people want. And there's a nice variety. I also want to say that whatever rendering software you guys use, the quality of renderings that you're putting out makes a huge, huge impact. And I think that it really helps you guys stand out. Now, I'm sure it's not impossible for anybody else or any competitors you may have to use any of the, rendering softwares that you're using, but not everybody is. And it makes a huge difference. And it really, I've seen different people who have some, even just different people who have designs online, right? Like not exactly your competitors, but people who have designs of homes online who are pushing those designs really hard. If you're not using an A+ rendering and you take that design and somebody looks at a home they like and they find a very similar design on another website like yours, and that same rendering is a little bit stronger, you're hooked into that and you completely disregard the competition. So I want to applaud you on the quality of design and visual renderings that you guys are putting out there. I think it's a huge factor for your success. And by the way, I apologize for the loudest thunderstorm of all time, which happened to start when we started recording our podcast. So if you could hear that, I apologize for that.
No, I'm all good. I can't hear,
Yeah.
but no problem at
All
all.
right, good.
Look, thanks for the kind words on that. You know how we figured out how to do that, right?
No,
We,
how?
we failed at it a bunch of times.
100% is
It's the
always the
best, the
answer, isn't
best
it?
way to do it.
Yeah.
No, we said, okay, everybody's going to want to customize down to the faucet, down to the knobs, right? Like, and then the feedback was, no, we don't want to do that. That's the hard part. Give
Right.
us themes, give us selections. We don't want to do the full breadth of it. So
Right.
we did. And then, people would give us feedback on, hey, this looks good, this doesn't look good. And we ended up sewing as much information as we could together. And, we're not architects by trade, which is to say we weren't trying to put out something beautiful, masterpiece, not going to be replicated. We tried to say, we were living in this home. We have families living in this home. What would make them feel amazing when they get up in the morning?
Yeah.
What's like that design that changes how people feel when they're in their home, and how can we bring it to them at an affordable price?
Right.
Right. And so that was always our guiding design thesis. And then as far as the renderings, we went through a lot of iterations there too. We figured out sort of a proprietary step-by-step method to really make rendering a pretty easy process for us. It still takes some time.
Sure.
We're now doing it even for our partners because we figured out how to create the studio versions that are interactive, but at the same time high quality, and you could swap in and out themes, and you really get to do that in real time. And so
Yeah.
that was a big lift for us. We tried a bunch of different software approaches, but ultimately realized, how we had to do it was a procedural step-by-step image rendering system, and so
Okay.
that's what we implemented. And while this is a bit nerdy, like it helped us get to a place where it isn't insanely expensive or time-consuming. It doesn't take months for us to get this done. It takes
Right.
days,
Yeah.
and we can put it online with customization, which was the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Um, so the next pillar of your business is construction. I'm sure this is the easiest part for you guys, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, what your model is in terms of getting projects built. And, how did you guys start? Is there any changes that you made along the way? Are there things that work well and don't work well? What does that look like for you guys when you get a house sold, and the design is finalized and you guys have to find a builder to partner with? What does that look like for you?
I mean, we've went through a few different iterations of this, trying to learn what works best. We had a hypothesis of the things that we could take off builders' plates, and ultimately, some of them we took too much, and some of them we didn't take enough, and so
Yeah.
we had to mix, right? Like in some ways, we were able to take financing off the table, so they're not bridging a lot of things as they're doing construction. That's a big deal. At
Yep.
the same time, we took some of the takeoff work away, and we had some higher wastage. Right? So like there are things that we needed to figure out the cadence of working with builder partners for. We also needed to figure out how to work with builder partners for the job that makes the most sense for them. Right? Some jobs have sophisticated, earthworks that needs to be done, and a builder that specializes in earthworks, or maybe that was their trade before they really branched out across different construction verticals, right? That's the person that's going to be the best fit for that type of job. And so fitting the right builder partner with the right job was also a bunch of key learnings. Like how do we
Yeah.
evaluate who's going to be the most successful at any given thing? And so we learned all of those things. We learned how to allocate jobs. We learned every aspect of construction. And then on top of it, we learned like where things go wrong and how to combat them sort of both in the field with our builder partners, from the architectural perspective, from the engineering perspective, and of course, the most important one, from the municipal perspective, right? People have strong feelings both for and against new construction, as everybody knows. And
Yes.
so dealing
Right.
with that sentiment is, it's a thing that we do. We attend ARBs. We do everything on behalf of our customers. But what I
Okay.
can say is we're fortunate that, when we got our initial customer base, and we said to them, hey, we're not going to be perfect. We're a startup, but we're trying to make a change. You're going to get a great house at the end of the day at a great price, and it's going to be, amazing. Well, we're going to learn a lot from your purchase. That trade was met with open arms from our customers, and that is the most valuable thing we could have achieved. I mean, that's a testament to, other people saying, hey, like, I want to get a great deal. I want to get a great home. I think this is going to work out really well, and I'm willing to change the way that everybody else buys home in the future, buys a home in the future too. And so that's really where we learn the most, is how we could work with people to really deliver something great, and how we could take the time to figure out what steps are needed to make that patterned every single time we work on a project. And so the learnings are infinite. I mean, down to material level infinite, right? But we keep learning every day, and then we have a process for bringing those learnings back into design, back into engineering, back into our practices, sharing them across our builder network. And so hopefully what we're doing by making that process iterative is we're creating a blueprint to move into new markets and give other builder partners the ability to learn from all of that and skip all the sort of the hard learnings, right?
Sure. Right. Right. One of the critical details of your offer that I forgot to mention earlier was that you have guaranteed pricing, right? So when your customers pick a design and pick a piece of land and do whatever level of customization that they choose to do, once that final price is locked in, that price is locked in, right? One of your challenges is likely that you don't have the same term agreement, I'm assuming, with the builders that you're hiring to do this work. Is that fair to say?
It varies between projects. So
Okay.
Welcome has a good bit of work that we have to do upfront on our side. Like, our job, as I tell the team, is to bring the information to everybody's fingertips, right? And so the biggest reason that a builder partner might say, hey, I don't know about the pricing on this job, right? The largest reason is because they're not sure that they have all the information. And so, like, our
Right.
job is to bring that information to their fingertips so they can have a level of confidence that they would never have had before, right?
Yep.
And so that's effectively what we do with our software, with our engineering. We bring that information to their fingertips so that we can align interests and incentives.
Right. Yeah. Is it fair to say that the site is the biggest variable factor at this point, since your designs are so refined at this point? Is that fair to say?
The site is always the most variable. As we go
Right.
into new places, the site's going to be even
Yeah.
more and
Right.
more variable, right? Like, we started in the Northeast, which I would like to say is one of the hardest places we could have started.
Absolutely
From
right.
a municipality, like the granular municipalities, all different building codes, ARBs, overlay districts, everything, you name it, right?
Right.
And so we wanted to take those learnings so that the rest of the country was much easier to expand into.
Yeah, 100%. So today, your model today, you guys have a complete design, right? And that complete design is purchased. Like I said, maybe there's some customization made, maybe there's not. And then the project's finalized and a builder is chosen. Does that builder now needs to kind of work with a local licensed architect to make sure that design is specific to the region? Is that accurate? Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually they could work with anyone they've worked with before. We provide like a good base set so that it's really an inspiration set, so the architect could really make sure that everything's conformed. But the majority of things that the customers are looking for are already figured out, right? And so again,
100%.
it's about bringing information to the fingertips of the architect in that
Right.
situation, right?
Yeah.
The renderings, the expectations are already figured out ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of factors, right? It's usually maybe some insulation requirements or some some fasteners or strapping for wood framing and some foundation details. But other than that, it's not like that's a huge other step that needs to be taken, by the end user or the builder that you're working with. Does the builder hire the architect and or an engineer, or is that Welcome Home? Does Welcome Homes hire those people?
We help. We have a network. It's usually the builder partner that does that work. It's usually someone that they have, and that they make the plans exactly like our builder partner wants.
Got you.
Um,
Got you. Okay.
yeah.
What is from everything you've learned, trying all different sorts of versions and avatars of builders, right? Today, what does a great builder partner look like in your eyes? What do they look like? What does their company look like? What are you guys looking for in the market in terms of general contractors and builders to partner with?
Well, it depends on the area, but and it depends on the project. But the experience in certain elements of building is really important, right? Like matching a project, like I said, that has a lot of earthworks with someone who has the best experience in earthworks. That's one of I think the novelties of what we try to do. Like we really look at the project requirements and the builder's competencies in order to make that pairing the right way. And so like that's fundamentally what we're looking for is experience, but experience and open-mindedness, right? We can do a lot. We can bring a lot of value to the table for our builder partners. We just need them to have experience. We need them to have dependable subcontractors. We need them to understand the changes that we're making within sort of the parameter of a traditional build by constraining things so that they're more value engineered up front. Like if a builder partner understands that and they have resources to be able to move through projects and experience to know where things could be done better, where they could, move scheduling items around so that they create efficiency, then they're a great partner for us.
Right, right. Is it ever hard to tell before you partner with somebody like what they're going to be like and what that experience is going to be like? Is that a challenge for you?
You mean is it hard to go on one date with someone and then know you're going to spend the rest of
Exactly.
your life with them? Yeah, I mean,
100%.
yeah,
So
yeah,
well
it,
put.
it it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But like, look, intellectual honesty is the most important part of dealing with business, I think, in general, right?
Yeah.
Like, business is about how can we work together to make something happen? How can we partner so that the world is better and the things are better and our deals are better when we do them with mutual alignment? So is it hard? Of course it's hard. But ultimately, I think, we have a pretty good system for showing people what value we bring and asking them the right questions to make sure that they're the right fit for us. And, more often than not, we're really very fortunate.
Right. That's awesome. Um, okay. So the end user, once they say, we're finalized and you guys partner with a builder, how long does the process typically take from the time where they sign an agreement with you until the time where, you break ground on a house? What does that look like?
You know, that one's a hard one to answer for a couple of reasons. There's bank closing. Most of our customers use financing, so
That's a
that
good point.
takes a
Yep.
little bit of time. And then there's permitting, and as you know, in the Northeast, permitting is widely variable. I mean, we've had
Yeah. Yeah.
permitting that's taken a couple
Yeah.
of weeks to some that's over a year.
2 weeks to a year
Um,
and a half.
yeah.
That's the answer.
No, that's a standard range, right? Which is
Yeah,
which
that's the
is such a
range.
small range, right? So it really depends
Okay.
on the municipality. We have a pretty good gauge for it, I think, at this point. Obviously, municipality loads and ARBs and meeting times and stuff move that to different, like to different months, but. Ultimately, the ground break really is contingent on all the normal stuff. Nothing
Right.
for us. Everything that we need to be able to produce, we already have up front. That's the beauty of
Yep.
the software.
Right. 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 Um, Very interesting. So there's a factor here at play that's pretty unique, which is that for a builder, they do not have much interaction with the person that they're building for. As a builder, I don't hate that. Welcome
That's
Homes.
actually the reaction we get the most. I don't hate that.
Right, I don't hate it. I don't absolutely hate it. I'm not gonna stomp my feet about that. Listen, not that we hate customer service and we don't love being a part of a journey with our customers by any means, but to be honest with you, we could just move so much quicker and faster without much interaction from anybody at all, and we love the idea and the concept of being able to be in contract. It's clear what we need to do on our end, and we're going to move forward and build something for you, and we'll let you know when it's done. We like that
Yeah.
idea. Um,
Well,
so
it's I don't speak any other languages other than coding, right? So computer coding. But I can tell you if I had to build an application and explain every line of code while I was building the application, I would be about 100 times slower. And then
100%,
I couldn't tell
100%.
you that the person I was explaining each line to would really get it either. And
That's
so I think
such a
that's
good
what you're
point.
doing. You
It
know, that's what you're
is.
doing. You're teaching someone a language as you're building them something in that language. That's not an easy thing to do. And so you don't hate it because if you're trying to do the best job for the customer, then you're effectively trying to go quickly and efficiently and make things work, right? And so
Right.
that's really hard when you're also doing a whole bunch of stuff for the customer to educate them. And so I
Right.
do believe that's one of the biggest values that Welcome provides is that we're helping with that education and that information layer to customers so that as a builder you could be part of the journey as you said, but focus on the things that will make the journey faster, more efficient, better, for the customer in the long run without having to tell them that
Yeah.
every 2 days.
Do they like that? Is there any pushback or any uncomfortable sort of perceptions there that the end user isn't really communicating with their actual builder? Any pushback there?
Yes and no. It really
Yeah.
depends on a lot of different things. I mean, like some customers want to know granularly what's happening. Some want to honestly like if they remember to come and get their keys, right? That type of
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
But so it's very dependent on the person. And I think we in the beginning could have done a better job of realizing there was going to be such a variance between customers of how much they wanted and how little they wanted. We've
Yep.
moved to a model of being somewhat passive with information where we provide updates and everything, but it's available at their fingertips in the detail that they want, should they decide they want to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Like just like my Amex statement. I could go look at the transactions, but the sticker shock from the bill makes me not want to, right?
Right.
And so, I think that the granular detail and our bills are what they say they are, just it's separate from what the Amex
Yeah.
is.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
like, not no ding on Amex, I love them.
Yeah. They're
Uh,
great.
but uh, but like if they see at a top level the numbers right, the process is right, things are happening on site, even if there's delays or switches or whatever, then the granular details become less relevant. For some
Right.
people, the granular details are monumentally important, and we like to make sure that we facilitate that level of information for them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I back to what you said about like programming the software. I had a client who we built the house for, who fired the architect like 3 months in and was like as involved as you could possibly humanly be. And we're friends now. All right, like the job got built. It was not easy, but it was done and it was done well. And uh, you know, one day we're on a job meeting and he came up to me and he said something about he's like, but that guy, I don't think he's doing it right. I saw it on YouTube. You're supposed to spin lasers and not use levels when you do that. And I was like, dude, like, I'm like, that's like HGTV number one. Number two, I'm like, when you're at work, could you imagine if I was looking over your shoulder while you coded, and every time you typed a G instead of an H, I pointed that out to you while you were doing it? I'm like, is there ever a mistake that's not corrected? He's like, no. I said, then do yourself a favor and go on vacation somewhere, and like, we'll call you when the house is done. We got this. And the next day, he was like, I thought a lot about what you said, and as much as I like you, if you were over my shoulder every day, he's like, I wouldn't want that. So I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to back off a little bit. And that allowed the project to open up and essentially, come to a completion point where everybody was really happy. So,
And just to make the point that you're making again, and I think we've said it maybe 5 or 6 times throughout this conversation, it's
yep,
all about human interaction, right? Like
right,
from everything we're talking about, a municipal level, engineering level, understanding the customer's needs, everything's about communication and having good interpersonal relationships, which
yeah,
is insanely hard in an industry that's so fragmented, right?
right,
And so like before the builder had to do that themselves. Hopefully, Welcome makes it a little bit easier to have those interpersonal relationships scale with better information. But builders themselves, as you're noting, right? Like we have our methods for making sure that we're communicating well with customers, with vendors, with subcontractors, and we have the keys to know what language they need to speak in order to do their job the best, right? And that really only comes with experience. But
absolutely.
it's a valuable part of being a builder and having good customer management experience. So
Yeah.
I think it's everything is communication in this business.
I do too. I think trust is extremely important too, and I think just based on the industry and what is happening, that there is a lack of trust sometimes, and that's where the interaction and the micromanagement and the incessant need for information can come from. I think when people are working with Welcome Homes, based on you guys having such a unique selling proposition in the first place, like the level of trust has to be there before they even decide that they want to move forward with you. You know, when I look around and I look at Welcome Homes and I look at feeds of people, let's say on like Reddit, who talk about Welcome Homes, it's the same one question. Thinking about working with Welcome Homes on this project, how is everybody else's experience? And the answers are really positive throughout, which is like, I'm working on a job right now. It started. I'll let you know how it goes by the time that it's done. And that's what you see all over the internet, which says a lot. It says that, like, people are sort of signing up in a way of like, look, you're going to order something, you're going to sit back, and we're going to deliver, and we're going to deliver in the time frame that we say we're going to deliver, and we're going to deliver at the price point that we tell you that we're going to deliver. And that's literally our promise to you from Welcome Homes. And this is why you should work with us. So you're kind of setting the stage there, and I think that that's a critical aspect of your success.
Well, thank you. I mean, look, it's important to us. What I always tell everybody is that, you're not going to get someone that's going to try any harder than us. We're going to try. We're going to do everything we can for every customer. And unfortunately, we're going to have bumps just like everybody else. But we have a team that's equipped to deal with the bumps. We have a team across a bunch of different verticals, and we're applying technology and iterative learnings every step of the way. So, we'd like to be the most trustworthy person that we could be, or people we could be, and that's sort of the value we could bring to the table. We can't say you're immune from any problems that'll ever happen, right?
Right.
But we can tell you that you're immune from one very specific one, which is price.
Yep.
And so that's usually enough to get customers to really say, okay, well, look, if they're going to stand behind their pricing and they're going to stand behind what they're going to do, then I trust they're going to get me through the other side.
Absolutely. And look, you're carefully vetting your contractors. I mean, there's even, I know from being on the other end, there's more than even what you mentioned, right? Like there's bonding requirements. Like there's a lot that goes into making sure that your customer is getting the best trade partner and building partner that there could possibly be in that area before that house starts to be built. So there's definitely a lot of protective mechanisms that you're putting in place for your customers, for sure.
That's our focus, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can we try to do our best at every place? Hopefully we don't fail too many places, but how can we do our best at everything that we know needs improvement across the industry?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
That's the focus.
Yeah, absolutely right. So what is the grand vision for Welcome Homes? Where do you see this thing going? Where do you want to take it to? What does the time frame look like? Like paint a picture for us.
For me, I think the opportunity is more profound than people realize, just in general, about construction and about infrastructure in the United States. I mean, my personal hypothesis is that new single-family construction is about 3% of the entire market of sales of homes. I mean, it's very small relatively, and it's very fragmented. I think the top 5 builders still don't even have a 30% hold on the market, which is crazy. I mean, in most industries, like, it's very saturated. And so you look at that and you say, I believe that new construction, new single family is going to go from 5% to closer to 10, maybe even 12% over the next 7 to 10 years. And that's a giant change. That's a giant change. We've already seen a lot to indicate that. I mean, in certain markets where inventory was constrained over the last couple of years, new construction constituted almost 30%. And I believe there are some places in North Carolina where that was the case because that's what was available.
Right.
And, new is desirable as long as the price point alignment makes sense. And so my hypothesis is that we're going to see a lot of desire for new construction. It's just about, can we make new construction affordable and attainable for people? And that's what Welcome is attempting to do, is to bring new construction closer to people's hands so that they can actually do it. And if they can actually do it, we believe we're going to expand the option set, which is now it's buy an existing home, custom build something, buy in a community. It's really going to be, hey, there's this middle wedge of semi-custom, in a place you want to live, and that's a real viable option now, right? And I
Right.
think that segment is going to be the largest growth segment across single family construction in the next few years. And as soon as interest rates kick down, I think we're going to start to see that again and again and again and again in all of the key markets that we see sort of a lot of people flocking to. And so the grand vision of Welcome is to be the enablement tool to say, hey, like, it's an option to build. You don't have to buy existing if it's not what you want. You can build, and you don't have to drive up price points because there's no inventory. You can create new inventory with us, right?
Right.
And I think that's really something we can do. I think we can make a giant difference in that 5% growth that we're going to see, or 8% growth that we're going to see over the next couple of years. And I want to make sure that Welcome is in a position to not only take advantage of it, but to be a good steward of what the infrastructure needs to look like to create those systems so that everybody in construction can benefit from what is for sure going to be transformative in construction overall.
Yeah, look, one other piece there, right? Not to sell for you, but to be honest, right? Like, you're also not building a fucking high ranch here, you know? Like, it's not like there's no option, so I'm going to build some crappy spec house that has no imagination and the cheapest building materials possible. It's not happening. Even on your base models, there's imagination, there's creativity, there's exciting factors to it, and there's always a pop. You could take your most economical model on your website right now, and I welcome everybody to go to the website, look at it, and challenge me on this. I don't think that there's one house on this website that you would look at and be like, that's pretty exciting to have at that price point. And I think that's where the sweet spot and all the magic is 100%.
Thank
I'm
you.
extremely
That's what we're
bullish
desperately
on it.
trying to do. So
Absolutely
thank you.
right. Yeah, look, I'm extremely bullish on it. I think if you guys continue to solve problems as they come in a strategic way, treat your customers right, treat your builders right, that you guys are going to really take over in a pretty impactful way. So when this releases, which will probably be in sometime of August or September in 2024, hopefully a decrease in interest rates are right in front of us, and we'll see what happens and see how far it goes.
Hey, well, look, thank you for the vote of confidence. Thank you for having me on. Thanks
Yeah.
for spreading the word of Welcome. Thanks for caring enough to really dig into these topics with me, because obviously I'm a little biased and passionate.
Yeah.
But I very much appreciate that the information around what could help all of us do better and take advantage of this I call it the 5% growth over the next few years is getting out there. So insofar as you're putting that in people's hands, and I see that you are with every show you produce and every time you talk to people, I think it's really positive for everybody overall. So thanks again for having me, and thanks for
Yeah.
spreading this.
My pleasure. Thank you. So how can people get in touch with Welcome Home, and how can builders who are interested and or developers who are interested in working with Welcome Homes get in touch with you as well?
Well, fortunately, we have the domain welcomehomes.com, so
There it
you can
is.
just jump right on there, email hello@welcomehomes.com, and someone will get back to you, within at least 10 seconds. I mean, it might be 20, just kidding, but we try to be pretty responsive. So just email us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Give us a call, jump on the website, submit a form, and we'll get in touch with you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alec. I really appreciate it.